What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with another a-ha demo. And this is another one from the deluxe edition of the 1993 album Memorial Beach. And it's the demo version of Lie Down in Darkness, a track I enjoy sonically. It sounds very much like they had fully immersed themselves or had headed strongly in the direction of blues rock and a more natural instrumentation, meaning it sounds not at all like the synth pop bassline driven tracks of the 1980s, for which they are perhaps most famously known, although even then, of course, there's a lot of diversity over the first few albums. Nevertheless, this definitely sounds like 90s a-ha very powerfully compared to a 1980s, as I said, keyboard driven sound. In any case, the lyrics, as I've come to hear them and understand them, and as some people talked about when I did the reaction to this originally, they speak to a connection that is perhaps tenuous, that is perhaps fleeting. It is something which cannot endure, or at least the narrator is convinced is sort of troubled, and there's lots of trials and tribulations that are preventing it from being something more solid and consistent. But he seems to be saying, let's have a connection while we can. Let's lie here together in darkness, which I think can be seen as an analogous euphemism for intimate relations, whether directly physically, which I think is part of it, but perhaps also the emotional rush that can come with that. So it feels like someone who's saying we may not be long for this world as an item, as a relationship, but let's enjoy what we can while we can, and let's have some type of connection if that's all this is meant to be, or all this can be. So it's an emotionally nuanced entreaty to the other person. It's saying, let's be together, let's be intimate, even if in the longer arc we're not going to be part of each other's lives. So it's a complicated plea, but it's one that I think still does have heart in it, if that makes sense. In any case, I don't necessarily have any predictions about the sonic difference between this and the album track, though I expect there to be some significant distinction in the fact that if it's a demo that's included, it must be different enough to warrant inclusion, meaning it's probably not just, one changed vocal inflection from Morton, but is likely to have different arrangement or a different duration. In any case, let's listen. This is a demo version of Lie Down in Darkness by a-ha, and it's from the deluxe edition of their 1993 album Memorial Beach. Already a bit different. I like those brass flourishes. So, it's not terribly different from the album version, but it is different in multiple respects. Number one, it feels in one way a bit more country, a bit less blues rocky, but it also feels a bit more soul gospel feeling. Like some of the vocal moments with their rich, like backing vocals, it definitely feels a bit more gospel choir than the eventual album tune. But that funky, I don't know, it was like a keyboard sound, that sort of sound definitely changes the feel and gives it a bit more of a twangy component, whereas again the final version on the album, it feels more natural instrument, which is to say this one, even though it sounds again a bit country, a bit gospel choir-ish, it feels more keyboard driven than the eventual album track. And I think the guitar solo or interlude in the album track has a bit more of a blues guitar type of feel, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's in the same direction, but its placement among some of the stylings definitely feels different. So yeah, it's one of those things where that track I don't think would have been a bad inclusion for Memorial Beach, but my first impression hearing it is that I'm glad they kept working on it and they found a bit more of a flavor that fits with other tunes from this period and record. So yeah, I feel like Morton was perhaps the most similar of the elements in terms of the album track and this demo, although there were a couple moments where his voice was echoed in a way where I wondered, I was trying to remember, like, is that how it sounds on the album version? So yeah, ultimately it's still a cool song, and I think the sentiment comes across equally well in this arrangement as it does in the record version, which, you know, I get it. For a lot of people, lyrics may be adjacent to what the song experience is, and that, you know, the melody, the arrangement of the different instruments, the sound of the vocals themselves might be the more immediate and visceral takeaway from the song. But knowing, after listening to it and after hearing people talk about it, what a song is driving at thematically, then I begin to associate the sounds with what is being expressed. And I think, again, it might come across a little different in terms of the arrangement, but I think the feeling of the song is essentially in the same area. So again, it's just cool to go through the demos of these different albums and get a sense for their creative process as it relates to what a song is in its germination. And in some cases we heard, you know, multiple demos of the same song before it got to an album version. And so to understand a bit of their back and forth, a bit of their tweaking, again, working with different producers who may have influence on the direction of a song before it reaches the actual album, is just a fascinating process to witness now many years after the fact. So again, another cool demo. Let me know what you think. I will see you next time. Peace.